All right, now it's time for Dynamic Duos presented by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV, and we are talking about a couple of running backs. I did not create this segment.
I was just going to say,
You sure about that?
I did not scripted this out.
Our producers did this without my knowledge, although I definitely co-sign on it, as you had already said earlier this show, Field. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions running backs, because I'm not sure that we're going to have two potential top 25 running backs from the same team again this year. Last year, you looked at potentially Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert. I don't think Raheem Mostert gets there this year, but I do believe that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery can be absolutely lights out fantastic. Lions have had two top 20 running backs in back-to-back seasons. Field, is there any reason, and I realize what this means, but is there any reason why they couldn't do that again this year with their offensive line and what these two guys bring to the table?
No, it's normally kind of tough to chase some of the outliers that we have seen from Detroit in back-to-back season. I'm not talking about as much Jahmyr Gibbs as I am David Montgomery, who took over the Jamal Williams role, where it's basically minimal factor in the passing game, but absolute hammerhead at the goal line. And yet the Lions have this elite offensive line. They have a quarterback who is not going to run the football, so there's no threat of like a 3-yard quarterback sneak. Any quarterback can execute a 1-yard quarterback sneak if they have the football at the 6-inch line. But yeah, David Montgomery should push comfortably for 225, 250-ish carries. And the chance for 10 touchdowns is definitely in play as well, much more so than I think the average running back has 10 touchdown upside. And with Jahmyr Gibbs, it's been said several times, and I think that sometimes when you hear players talk about these aspirational goals during the offseason, you have to be you have to be aware of the fact that, of course, every athlete has confidence, right? But on the same offense, I think I saw that Jameson Williams wants to lead the league in receptions and receiving yards. I hope he does. But
receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. Okay. He doesn't care how many receptions he has.
Okay, which is awesome. But I'd also be happy if we just got a nice, consistent season from J-Mo. If he had 60 catches this year, I'd be pumped, right? When Jahmyr Gibbs talks about the possibility of doing something like 1,000 and 1,000, or being a 1,000-yard rusher and a 700-yard receiver, I think it's within his bag. So
absolutely.
I'm super confident the player.
Yeah. Let's not forget that last year, it took a while for them to unleash Jahmyr Gibbs. And for those of us who had drafted him as our starting running back in deep league, like I did.
War Room League champion, Stephania.
Right.
Very much.
I mean,
it's your legal name. After the
we'll
name
say
change.
it for you, no problem.
But the thing is, I did it because of the potential and what you saw hints of during the preseason. But there was this hesitancy, and it sounded like the Lions, Dan Campbell would talk about, they wanted him to get adjusted to being in the NFL. They were bringing him out slowly, and then once they took the top off the bottle, it was unbelievable what he did. So when you look at his stats at the end of the year, you have to keep in mind that they were holding him back a little bit to start the season, and much more rotation with David Montgomery. I think one of the best stats for Montgomery, if you're wondering about him, Field alluded to it with all the touchdown potential. He was 4th in the league with rushes inside the 5-yard line.
Yes, he was.
So when they are close, that's who they're going to. Jahmyr Gibbs is not that guy.
4th in rushes
Montgomery
inside the
guy.
5, 4th in rushing touchdowns last year, tied with Gus Edwards. Only 3 other people in front of him because of that.
Total, yeah. Just 16 catches from Monty last year, which, again, you're not typically looking for running backs who that is a reasonable expectation, again, because they have Jahmyr Gibbs and Jared Goff has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, maybe a breakout season for J-Mo, et cetera. But because of the touchdown equity for David Montgomery, I think it's in play here. I also, and Stephania, I'll let you take it from here. It does not sound like there is injury concern for Jahmyr Gibbs going into week 1 after missing some time in the preseason.
Yeah, he listed with the hamstring injury. And again, we don't know the severity. In the preseason, they really don't have to tell us much about it, but they were holding him out of practice, as teams often do when it's the preseason. They don't want it to turn into something bigger. Back in practice this week, no question about his status for this week's game.
I saw during Dan Campbell's press conference, I think it was Sunday or Monday, that there was only player who was iffy.
There's only one player.
And it was iffy.
It was iffy.
It was iffy.
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Iffy is iffy. But
iffy is iffy, yes.
Other than that, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, who both missed time because of hamstring issues, both expected.
Let me ask you 2 questions here, Field. Do you think it's in the possibility, the range of outcomes, for Jahmyr Gibbs to finish as RB1 this season?
Yes. It's in the range of outcomes. Again, being in the range of outcomes, it does not mean it's a guarantee by any stretch.
It just means it's a non-zero chance.
I think the way that here's the way it gets there. Christian McCaffrey was by far the best running back in fantasy last season. His receiving, relatively speaking, was modest. He had only, and this is ridiculous, only 67 catches.
Oh my gosh.
If Jahmyr Gibbs gets the 85 catch treatment this year, he does not need 250 carries to go along with it. If you turn 85 catches into 812 yards and 6 touchdowns, as a running back, that's a real path towards potential RB1 season.
Yes, totally with you on that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me.
Say it more.
Yeah, I'm just keep giving it to me. I'm fine with that. Let me ask you this. If David Montgomery were to miss time, I don't know that Jahmyr Gibbs would vault up that much higher in his rankings because we already have him as basically a top 7, at least a top 10 running back on a weekly basis. Yeah. If Jahmyr Gibbs misses time, David Montgomery all of a sudden becomes what? A top 12 guy?
Yeah, so they're around that top 12 mark. So you think about like guys like Travis Etienne, like Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs. Like that's about the range I think you get to for David Montgomery.
Either way, this is one of the best duos of running backs in the NFL. Both of these guys are absolutely fantastic. Some would say dynamic duos as well. When we come back, we got more from Answering the Bell, but that was Dynamic Duos presented by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV are the perfect pair for watching NFL games on Sunday.
Yeah, they're the perfect pair. You get to actually watch the game. So shout out
to
YouTube TV and NFL Sunday Ticket. I promise you it is worth the money.
We'll be right back.